Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew. Alan Seiler.
I object.
And Veronica Daschel.
Hi.
And Keith couldn't join us tonight. Hopefully he'll be able to join us in progress, but it sounds like he got a little tied up with work, so we're going to carry on. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about the courtroom episodes. We all sort of ranked our courtroom episodes. Alan, you put all this all together, so you want to tell everybody how this is going to go?
Yeah, sure. This all came from, well, first of all, I love the courtroom episodes. They tend to be, like ranked really high in my favorite episodes. And as we were watching through the first season of Starfleet Academy, it ended with basically a courtroom scene. And that inspired me to think, holy cow, there have been so many courtroom episodes. There are more courtroom episodes than you actually think that there are. There are certain ones that immediately come to mind, but there are so many more. And I made a big master list of all of them. We all took a look at them. We've all picked our top 5 favorites, and we're going to rank them tonight. So the way this is going to work is, as when we do these kind of lists, there are occasionally some crossover, like something will get picked by 2 people or whatever. There was a lot of crossover this time. So the way we're doing this is instead of doing like 4 separate lists, and of course with Keith not here, he wouldn't have a chance to defend his picks in the court of law.
He couldn't present his evidence.
Exactly. So I just made one list. We have it's our top 12. And if someone picked an episode for their number 1, it got 5 points. If somebody picked an episode as their number 5, it got 1 point. So I added everything up. I put them in a rank, and these are the top 12 courtroom episodes according to Earth Station Trek.
And what other source matters?
Of course.
That's exactly how I thought I was going to be like, hey, Alan, can I put this together and I'll rank them? That was exactly how I was going to rank them.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at that. Great minds think alike, and so do mine and Veronica's.
I don't know if that's insulting to you or me or both.
Oh, boy. So shall we jump in?
Yeah,
sure. So we're starting from number 12 and working our way up.
Starting from number 12, and we're going to work up, and then whoever put this on their list gets to talk about why they put it on their list.
Okay.
So the first one, number 12, we have Deep Space Nine with Inquisition.
Okay.
I feel like that was one of mine.
It was one of yours.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Chuck has his list pulled up on the screen. I don't have mine listed on the screen.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, with my list, as we get up further into the rest of them, I tried to avoid the very, very obvious ones that I knew were going to be very popular. And I went instead with ones that I found kind of interesting. Yeah. As opposed to, this is a courtroom scene and it's a really cool courtroom scene. But I thought the use of the holosuite to be a really interesting way to like see if someone is really up for the task or whatnot. So that's kind of why I picked that one. Also with Deep Space Nine, and it's Julian Bashir, and I like Julian. So
there you go. Yep. Anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a good one, but yeah, not one that I would have picked.
And didn't.
There's a reason it's number 12.
Let the record show.
I think it was probably my number 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our first 3 episodes that we're going to be talking about were number 5 on 3 different people's lists. So we start with number 12, Inquisition. Our number 11 pick is my number 5, and that's Matter of Perspective, Next Generation. And the reason that I picked this one, there was a number of, I had so many that I was going to try to make the cut. But again, like Veronica, I did pick some of the obvious ones, but I wanted to pick some other ones that I thought nobody else would. And the thing that I really enjoy about this, like Veronica said, was the use of the holodeck as a tool for recreating a crime scene. And what I love about it is that you get, as the title implies, you get different perspectives on what's being presented. So the very concrete things happen, but people see it differently and call it differently, and their experience makes them remember it differently. And I think that's a really interesting thing. So each person gets the chance to take the basic parameters and recreate the scene based on how they remember it going down. And it's so interesting to see the different ways that these things play out.
Right.
And through this presentation, then whoever I don't even remember, I haven't seen this in a million years, whoever the judge was, got to decide what the truth is throughout all these different points of view. So I just found it a super interesting episode, and one that I haven't watched in a long time, but would enjoy watching again.
And Matt has an interesting comment from that. Chuck, do you want to?
Oh yeah, since you're doing that, I'll drive the comments.
Okay, thanks.
So first off, Matt Sweatman had said, "I hope there's a dramatic twist in this episode."
Oh, there is.
And then he went on to say, "We still really don't know what happened in the events described in Matter of Perspective."
That's also why I find that episode interesting.
Right.
I love that kind of thing where you don't get a decisive answer at the end.
Yeah.
All right. That was our number 11. There it is again, Matter of Perspective. Number 10. I think we're back on Veronica's list this time. Let's see. No, this is not Veronica's. This must be.
Oh, I picked this one.
Yes, you did.
This was my number 5. And
Rules of Engagement, Deep Space Nine.
I didn't avoid the obvious ones.
I mean, they're obvious because for a reason, because they're so good.
Yeah. You want me to list the 5 best courtroom episodes? They're all going to be courtroom episodes. But no, I love this. I love the Klingon character. First off, I love seeing a lawyer and he's approaching it through a Klingon ethos, right?
Yes.
This is his battleground. I thought that the actor did a wonderful job. I love that it's it's really diving into Worf's character here and him sort of making that transition into being a command officer.
Yeah.
And sorry for the spoilers, but I love that ultimately he's not guilty, but he is, right? He still made the wrong call. And they make that very clear in the end. Like his name is cleared and so forth. And he was like, I should have verified my target. And Cisco's like, you're damn right. You should have verified your target. You know what I mean? And he was being set up. And I love that, you get a little bit of Odo being the detective and working out the clues. And that really I don't know. I think it was just, it uses Deep Space Nine very well. It uses the Klingon culture very well from both Worf and the lawyer's perspectives, but also a lot of the characters get really good things to do. And I think it's very well made. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And I've used this as an example a number of times on our show where being a Klingon doesn't necessarily mean going into battle, like wielding a batleth and firing a phaser and all that kind of stuff, because they approach everything as a warrior. And here's this guy who takes, the law. He takes being a lawyer. That's his form of being a warrior. And he attacks the courtroom as if it is the battleground. And I love that. I think that is such an important aspect of the Klingon psyche. Yes.
Matt Sweatman commented, you could almost just have a list of Klingon trial episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you want to add to that, Veronica?
No, I mean, it was one of the ones that was on my original list when I just kind of went through it and just like typed out all the ones that I was like, I like this one. So it was on my original list of 9.
Okay.
Partly because it's DS9, partly because it was actually in a courtroom. But ultimately, I enjoyed the 5 that I ended up with more.
And there you go. And that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our number 10, Rules of Engagement from Deep Space Nine. Number 9, we do come back to Veronica's list. Veritas from Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
Right, tell us about this one.
Yeah, so I thought this was a really interesting twist on a courtroom episode, because it wasn't actually a courtroom episode, we later find out, which I really enjoyed. But it was basically treated like a courtroom episode. And each of the characters is like telling their version of the story of what happened. And it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, Lower Decks. What else do I need to say?
Yeah.
It's also very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of broadens the scope of what Lower Decks had done up to that point, because you get the flashes over to the Romulus ship mission and all that kind of stuff. So you get really just, I mean, more than what you would typically see in a week-to-week episode of Lower Decks, which that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said when in my little intro, every Star Trek series has done a courtroom episode. The thing that's really fun about this list is that our list covers lots of different series from lots of different time frames. So this is going to get a little window into lots of the Star Trek series.
Yeah, totally.
Which I think is great. So again, that was number 9, Veritas from Lower Decks. Number 8, we have Author from Voyager.
That was another one of mine.
That's another one of yours. It was almost one of mine also. Go ahead.
So I found this really fascinating. So one of the reasons I picked this one is because it was trying to classify like who had rights to claim copyright, basically, from my memory and my memory of the summary, which I thought was really fascinating, because they were like, well, no, you're a hologram, so you don't have rights to this, so you can do whatever the heck you want with it. And I was thinking about how that's kind of related to, I'm not saying that the Doctor was AI creating art and taking other people's work and just spitting out crap, because that is not at all what was happening. But there was a similarity there where people were saying that, no, you're just an AI. You're just spitting out whatever was fed into you. You're just a computer, so I can do whatever I want with it. But that wasn't the case, because he was a sentient being. So, but I really liked the parallels between what's going on right now with AI art and everything that was going on in this.
That's a really great call. This was almost on my list. This may have been my number 6. And there's a lot going on in this episode that draws my attention to it. First, it's about the Doctor has written a holo novel, and his coworkers object to it because it's clearly inspired by his experiences on the ship, and he doesn't do enough to kind of cloak that.
Yeah.
And he's like, this, I'm doing what every great author knows. I write what I know. Voyager is the only thing I know.
Right.
And that's a cool perspective. It moves from that into whether or not he has the right to enter into an agreement with a publisher, and whether the publisher can do whatever they want with that work. So you get into a little bit of like the whole, like Veronica said, copyright law and content creation and intellectual property and all that kind of stuff. But then they have to go to court to basically decide whether the Doctor is a person, if he is a sentient being. So then we get that measure of a man element to it. And it has all these layers, and it keeps building upon itself. And it's so interesting to me that, and I just watched this again last night, because I was like, should I put this on my list? I find it super interesting, because you would think that the court case deciding Data's personhood would have taken care of this, but no, because that was an android. This is a hologram. That's a whole different thing. And you have to go through that process again. And it's interesting to me that laws aren't always blanket. You know, you can't make a decision and it apply from that point on, because every new iteration of an argument has to be determined for itself.
Right.
Mhm.
And so going from a guy who's writing a book into deciding whether or not that author is a person, not just that he's an author, but that he's an actual person, I find it a fascinating episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. And also, I have the opposite opinion of the Doctor's personhood and ability to have intellectual property that I do our modern, what we call AI, or the
Yes.
language
Yes.
models that
Yeah.
really are
100%.
just, plagiarism machines.
Yeah.
Whereas the Doctor has lived experience,
Mhm.
right? The
Yes.
Doctor is, in my opinion, a person. Now we're sort of conditioned to believe that because we're watching them and he's one of the heroes of the show. I
Sure.
can see how people in the Star Trek universe might object to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the point that I really liked, I mean, there was so much about this episode that I like. One is that, all that stuff that I was talking about, that journey that the Doctor has to go through, but also the journey that his shipmates go through, and Janeway particularly,
Mhm.
who at first she was like, if you could just rewrite this a little bit, and so it doesn't smear our name, so that people don't make the assumption that this is based on experiences that we have had,
Right.
because you make us look really bad in this. She goes from that into, this is no longer about us. This is about the Doctor and whether he is a living being and whether or not he has rights.
Mhm.
And I thought that shift in her perspective was key to the whole episode and so interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. I'm going to
Okay,
grab
we
a
have
few
comments?
Yes.
Yes.
So Elaine said, "Oh, I do love Veritas."
Hey,
Bill gave us
Hey,
an
Bill.
explanation of why he was late. He was writing an email and didn't set an alarm. We're going to hold you in contempt, Bill. Just kidding. Matt Sweatman says, "I have to admit, copyright law doesn't sound all that dramatic.
Oh, but it is.
It's Star Trek. Everything's dramatic."
Right.
And then Tiger Blade 2002 says, "Copyright laws. Like what is going on with the AI generation music lawsuits now?"
Oh man,
Mhm,
I'm telling you, it's a good topic.
totally.
We should do another show about that.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? All right. So once again, that was Author from Voyager, and that's from season 7, and that comes in at number 8. So at number 7, we get one of Keith's entries, I believe it is. Number 7 is Court Martial.
Yeah.
From the original series.
Mhm.
And I was sort of, when people were sending me their list for me to compile, I was sort of teasing Chuck. I was like, man, I'm really surprised that you didn't put Court Martial on your list, but I'll bet you Keith did.
Right.
And yes, this was his top pick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually didn't put any original series on my list, which is unusual for me.
Yes, it is.
Because I was really just trying to go by what are the best courtroom episodes, and I think there's better ones than this. But I love Court Martial.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Since Keith's not here, I'll speak up for it a little bit. Court Martial, it's a great portrayal of Captain Kirk. I love that bit where he's being accused, and it's like, for the good of the service, just accept the judgment and stand down. And he was like, he refuses, and he was like, if you object to this, then you're calling for a general court martial. It's like, I demand it. Like he's going to clear his name, and that's what you want out of the hero, right? And also, I mean, Keith has talked about this a lot more elaborately and a lot more with better lived experience eloquently than I have. But I mean, Commodore Stone was a huge addition to the Star Trek franchise.
Right.
The fact that we meet a flag officer who's one of Kirk's bosses, and it's a black man, is very meaningful to people to see that, and something important to put on television in 1966. And I think he was very well portrayed, and by Percy Rodriguez. And I love that it was not a deal in the episode. It was just that's the future. This is how things are. You know what I mean? Also, Samuel T. Cogley is a great character.
I was going to say, if nobody brought it up, I was going to say Samuel T. Cogley, Esquire.
Right. I can't say he's the best lawyer I've ever seen.
Well,
I don't think he doesn't really ask anyone any questions, and he just has this big stunt at the end. But it works.
He's a colorful character, if nothing else.
You can't argue with results.
That's right.
Probably like 20 years ago, there was a book called Samuel T. Cogley and the Case of the Colonist's Corpse. Did you ever hear about this? And it was a Samuel T. Cogley murder mystery. And they did it sort of in the style of those. It even had like the red edges of the outside of the paper on the paperback book, like the old
Yeah.
The pulp books of that type.
Yeah.
But it was great. I got that when it came out, and it was a lot of fun. I love the character. I wish they would bring him back in some capacity.
Yeah.
But it would have been great to see Samuel T. Cogley show up in like Star Trek 6. I mean, I love that we got like General Worf, but if Samuel T. Cogley had come out to defend them at their Klingon trial, it would have been amazing.
Oh my God, that would be so great. It would have totally changed the tone of that movie. And maybe made it a little more interesting.
Right. I love Court Martial. What about you?
I love it. I think it is a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you get down, I mean, you gotta point out the moment where there's literally a button on the captain's chair that's labeled that says, I mean, you've got a button for one specific job.
Mm-hmm.
that it's so silly, but the whole thing about falsifying evidence is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love this episode.
Yeah, and I love that there's very few people, I mean, 3 people on the ship who'd be capable of altering the computer in that way. And Kirk's one of them, because Kirk's a genius. And I love that Spock plays chess against the computer, and Bones is yelling at him about it, and he was like, I've just won my 3rd game. And he's like, that's impossible. Like, because someone's been messing with the computer. Like
that's right.
It's a very good episode.
Man, I do love it.
Grab some comments real quick.
Yeah.
Matt Sweatman says, now we're talking. Well, we got the court martial. And then he said, books. Then Elaine said, the Matlock of Trek.
That's right.
Bill says, my dad was a lawyer and judge. I saw a lot of him as an Air National Guard jet fighter pilot, but hardly ever saw him as a lawyer, except at a desk doing I had no idea what.
Research.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say I saw him in court only once. I had to settle for old Perry Mason and loved all the courtroom episodes of other shows.
And
he says, Star Trek has how many? Farscape had 1, and I love it. Star Trek has many.
Star Trek has many.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started putting our master list together, I had there were ones that I'd just forgotten, like I would not have remembered. Like I'd put my initial list together from memory, and it was kind of long. And then I pulled up like a different articles about ranking the greatest courtroom episodes, and I was like, holy cow, there's even more that I was even not even thinking about.
Right.
So that was Court Martial from the original series, coming in at number 7. Number 6 is Death Wish from Voyager.
Okay.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. This is another one of the ones on my list.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe we should talk about it then.
Yeah. So I like Q episodes. And I found this really fascinating that there was a Q who was tired of living
queuing.
Tired of queuing and was like, I just want to be a human or a non-immortal being and live, not necessarily human, whatever species you want to be, and just live out the rest of my life and die. But the Q was like, no, which I found interesting because I feel like that's almost a reference to the whole assisted suicide for especially for elderly people who were like, I'm done. I can't function anymore. You're literally just trying to keep a sack of skin alive at this point. So I found that really interesting, and comparing it to that. So that's why I picked that one. I'm assuming someone else did, because it would not be this high up if I was the only one that picked it.
It was also on Keith's list.
Okay.
Yeah. I also rewatched this episode very recently. I've just been doing a Voyager rewatch at bedtime and came across this one in the last couple of weeks, and it's far better than I remembered it being from the first time it aired. I watched it on an original broadcast, of course, and I was just not into it. So now that I have a little more life behind me and a different perspective on things, I found it to be a much more compelling episode. I think a lot of it was the visuals, because, when they're in the Q continuum, it's sort of depicted as this old deserted Western road with a gas station, like a way station kind of thing, and it's all dilapidated and dusty, and everything is brown. And I was just like, yeah, that totally sums up this episode. Just dull and dusty and brown. But it's actually got a lot more going on to it. A lot more. It's more philosophical than I really gave it credit for back in the day.
Did Frakes direct this one? I know he popped up in it, so I think probably he did.
I think so, but I don't remember, honestly.
Right. Yeah, and I liked this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I always liked when Q showed up, except for the Q in the gray. But you're right. Ron, you make a good point that the right to life or right to death debate's been going on for years and years, and probably will for years to come if people have the right to choose to end their life. And I know I like that they're sort of weaving that into a sci-fi setting, because you can sort of believe that this omnipotent eternal being who will never die. I mean, unless you watch Star Trek Picard, and then they can die. But that maybe he's just tired of it. He wants to choose to be mortal, and they don't want to let him. I think that's interesting, and I like the actor who plays Q2. He's good. He's been in a lot of other Star Trek as well.
Yeah.
Is that James Sloyan or the guy who looks like him?
No, he looks like him, but he's not him.
Yeah, there's two guys that look just like to me.
They're probably changelings.
Right.
Well, we are just about at the halfway point of the episode. And before we jump into our top 5, how about we take a little break?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
All right. Let's do this one.
Look up. Look down. Look out. Here come the monkeys.
Mickey.
David.
Mike.
Peter.
We're talking about them in Monkeying Around. That's right. Monkeying Around has everything, including
Interviews.
Episode reviews.
Album discussions.
and other incredible surprises.
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
All right. So we've had some comments come in that we're going to catch up on. Now, Matt Swebman asked, was James Bronson in that episode?
Charles Bronson.
Oh, was Charles Bronson in that episode?
Well, why? I don't know where you got James.
Nor I.
It says Charles. You would think you know what your name is and how to read it.
Only enough room for one Charles on this show. Sorry, Bronson.
Oh gosh, that's so funny.
Bill had said, "Oh right, the Q who's tired of this life."
Yeah.
Matt said, "So the entire top half is TNG then?"
No, it is not. Nope.
Elaine said, "I now have a Queen song stuck in my head." Matt said, "I love that promo."
It's the best promo.
Matt, if you love it, you should watch Monkeying Around Wednesdays at 8 p.m. because it's the opening to our show. Ask Elaine; she'll tell you when to watch it. And then Bill says that was hilarious.
It was his idea.
So, Elaine, what Queen song is stuck in your head? Who Wants to Live Forever? I'm guessing. I'm just making a guess.
That'd be a good one.
All right. Shall we jump into our top 5?
I think we shall.
I think we should. Coming in at number 5. So at this point, everything we talk about are like bangers. This is like the top tier of Star Trek, much less Star Trek courtroom episodes. This is all good stuff. So coming in at number 5, we have The First Duty from Next Generation. And I think, Charles, this was on your list, right?
Yeah, that was my number 4. I love catching up with Wes at the Academy.
Yeah,
I love this portrayal of the Academy where it feels like a West Point, right? It feels like this is the best of the best, but they're not perfect people. And we get sort of our proto Tom Paris and Nick Locarno. But I love that. I mean, you can you can see these guys as sort of like the right stuff kind of guys, right? But he was trying to showboat, trying to impress people and push people to take risks they shouldn't have taken, and then they're trying to cover it up. And I love watching Wesley having to wrestle with that, right? Because it's not the sort of story that you would see for Wesley on Next Gen.
Yeah.
He's not saving the day, he's not saving the ship, and he's not even like the leader of his little group. He's sort of the quiet guy in the group, the quiet little nerdy guy. But I mean, he's been raised with the principles of Star Trek, and mentored under Captain Jean-Luc Picard. He knows what's going on is wrong, and Picard has to help him see that. And I love Picard's line that a Starfleet's officer first duty is to the truth.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great, and I think that Robbie McNeil is fantastic in this episode. I can see why they chose to bring him back.
Yeah.
I meant on Voyager, not just on Lower Decks. But I love that they also brought him back on Lower Decks.
Yes.
That we actually got Nick Locarno back.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think that a Starfleet officer's first duty is to the truth is one of the iconic Picard lines. I think that is one of the most identifiable quotes. And it's just a fun episode. It's good to see Wesley in this new role, in this new environment. You know, we've known that he's gone off to college basically, and it's nice to see him in that setting. And, you know, and it's good to, like you said, this is West Point, it's the upper echelon, but these are still college kids. And it's nice to see them sort of treading, you know, both sides of that line.
Right.
And, you know, when you have somebody who's kind of cocky and reckless like Locarno, you know, who is also charismatic and influential and gets other people to go along with him and do stupid stuff, you know, it's good to see that kind of thing existing in the Star Trek world, because when you're set on a starship, you are only ever seeing the best of the best. And especially the ones that are the hero ship of whichever series we're talking about, that is the top tier of Starfleet. And this is nice to see these people who are coming into that, who are becoming Starfleet. And, you know, I don't mean to dog on it at all, because I really enjoyed it, but I would like to see a bit more of this from Starfleet Academy, the series, not the institution.
Yeah, totally. And they'd previously shown that it's very difficult to get into the academy. We'll watch Wes go through that. And we saw here that it's very difficult to get through the academy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been plenty of Starfleet officers and admirals who I'm like, how did you get through the academy? You know?
Well, that's true.
But it's going back to that line. I mean, there's certainly, we get a lot of "we are Starfleet" kind of lines today. And we had some cheesy ones in the past as well, where it's like, "we are Starfleet, we don't lie." But this is like, when it hits, and this is one that really does. Like, it really does sort of, I don't know, I'm not even in Starfleet. I just watch them on TV, and it gives me a sense of pride. You know what I mean? That like, these are our heroes. We're trying to be better, you know?
And you know, you made a really interesting parallel there that I'd never really thought of, but that line that you quoted, "we are Starfleet, we don't lie." That's Wesley from season 1, from like early, like maybe the 4th episode or something from season 1. And look at the journey that kid has been on, going from this, you know, scrawny little snot-nosed kid into this guy who is entering into his career, or what at least at that point he thinks his career path is going to be, and becoming his own person, his own adult human being. And I find those kind of journeys to be really interesting to watch. We saw that same thing with Nog on DS9. And I think that it plays out really nicely here. And I really enjoy that for Will Wheaton and for Wesley.
And it's putting in conflict two different things that he's learned about Starfleet, and that we, the audience, have learned about Starfleet. And one being the thing that we don't lie, we tell the truth, that we're standing up for what's right. But also there's this whole Starfleet thing of like, you stand by your crew, right? Like, you and your crew are together no matter what. And that's what he's trying to do. Like, in a sense, Nick Locarno is like his captain, and this is his crew, and he's trying to stand by his crew. But it's a crew that's putting him in a bad situation, you know?
Right. And I think it should also be mentioned that we get Boothby in this episode.
Oh, Matt Sweatman commented on that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And Elaine confirmed that it was, Who Wants to Live Forever. Bohemian Rhapsody. Why do you ask?
Another one bites the dust.
Right.
What was I going to say about Booth? Oh, yeah. And I was so hoping that there was going to be a Boothby equivalent kind of character in the Starfleet Academy series, and I don't think we really got one.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about Boothby, too, is that, I mean, he's like a genuine sci-fi icon. And I think people sort of forget that because they're not familiar with my favorite Martian.
My favorite Martian, yeah.
But, I mean, it was just great having him in Star Trek. And, I mean, you know what? They should have had Christopher Lloyd as Boothby. Because he played in the movie My Favorite Martian.
What? There was a movie?
Yeah, there was a My Favorite Martian movie, and Christopher Lloyd was Uncle Martin.
I don't
Either
know
that I had a weird dream in the 90s. One of the
two. I don't know what you got up to in the 90s, man. Like Pelia would say, it was the 90s.
Right.
So anything more to add about First Duty?
Veronica? No? Okay.
All right. Well,
She
we'll
pleads the
move on
fifth.
to our number 4 then.
Because it's number 5.
What?
I said she pleads the fifth, and she said,
No.
number 5.
Funny. Okay. Number 4. Ad Astra per Aspera from Strange New Worlds season 2. And this was my number 1 pick. By God, I love that episode so much. And I felt like it was an important episode to have at that point in Strange New Worlds, because the first season was very whiz bang action, and it was fun, and it was a great first season. It was a really strong first season with a couple of episodes thrown in that gives you some moral debate, like the one where Pike has to deal with that planet that's setting the boy up as its ruler, only for that boy to die.
Right.
And that was a fascinating episode, but this one deals directly with Starfleet's rules, with the way that you have to fit in with its rules, and whether or not those rules can bend. And I thought this, it was just an incredibly strong episode. The performances were amazing. And I just thought that everything about it, we got a new character. Hang on, I'm getting her name because I forgot her name. Carry on. Chuck, talk for me for a minute. So while I find her name.
Yeah, I'll point out some of the reasons this didn't make my list, because I really considered it, because I think this is a really strong episode. And unlike you, I like that guest star character. I think she was great. I think some of the things that held it back for me was there's a lot of scenes of Star Trek characters watching Star Trek on TV, which sort of removes some of our heroes from being, active parts of the drama, including Captain Pike. And this was during that early season 2 period where basically he was on vacation because he had a kid, but Pike, it was sort of the beginning of Pike being less of an active participant in Strange New Worlds. I mean, I can't imagine, like, if Measure of a Man was going on, Picard was sitting in his cabin watching it on the monitor thinking, oh, I wonder how this is going to work out. You know what I mean? Like, you want him to be up and part of the action. So I wouldn't have traded the lawyer character for him, but I would love to have seen Captain Pike be more a part of this story.
I mean, I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I feel like his presence is greatly missed in this episode. And, we all know the real world reasons why he wasn't as involved in the first half of this season. And, that aside, you still miss him in this episode. And I don't mind once in a while the Star Trek characters watching Star Trek on TV, because I feel like it's sort of like it was like not everybody can be in the courtroom, but everybody is invested in what happens here. And they kind of illustrate that by having these characters really focused on watching the video feed of the thing, because, it's like watching a presidential election, Right. Especially like a historic one. You're going to be there because you want to see what happens. And I don't know, I didn't mind that aspect nearly as much.
Okay. I still think it's a very strong episode, though. I was really considering this for my top 5. I'm going to grab a comment real quick from Matt Sweatman, who said, yep, not only was it compelling, it culminated in an ongoing plot line from season 1.
Right. And I think that was a good use of a plot line, a plot thread that had carried over from season 1, resolve it, bring it, make it matter. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I love this episode. This was my top one, and Keith had made it like his number 3, I think it was 2 or 3. So that's how it ranked kind of high on the list.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I love it. And her name was Yetunde something or another, and I cannot remember her name, the actress. And as the court appointed thing, she was phenomenal.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah,
she was great.
really good.
And that whole like debating points of law, debating ethics, debating what is right. I find that so, I just love that. I am so invested in that anytime it happens.
Yeah, I love when Star Trek characters just stand around a room and talk about things like that.
Right. Get down to the nitty gritty,
Right.
which we are going to do in our next entry, because like I said, number 4, Ad Astra Per Aspera from Strange New Worlds, an absolute classic, comes in at number 3, Measure of a Man from Next Gen.
Yeah, and I had this as my number 3, but really my top 3 could be shifted around very easily. Like I'm looking at it right now, thinking like maybe I should. But Measure of a Man is a phenomenal episode. And it's one that's not an expensive episode to produce. I mean that courtroom you see there is like the Enterprise movie bridge just redressed, you know?
Sure.
And it sort of falls into some of those stereotypes of like you're out on the frontier. So like, oh, there's a trial going on and like your boss is your lawyer and the assistant manager is your defense attorney, you know, the judge is Picard's old lover. Like it always works out that way, you know?
Right.
But I mean, it does a really great job, I think, of examining data. And it's one of the first great TNG episodes back when TNG was still finding its feet, and really showed what that show had the potential to become. And I love that scene with Picard and Guinan where Picard's like, "You're describing slavery."
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I think that's a little harsh." And he's like, "I don't think that's a little harsh at all."
Yeah.
I think it's just a wonderful episode. And yes, it's a cliche to have Riker being forced to be the defense attorney, but I mean, he's become the defense attorney and having to give his best effort in an attempt to save his friend, but having to deal with his own conflict over that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because he's arguing a point that he doesn't actually believe in, but he's arguing it as a point of law for the benefit of his friend, you know, and like that scene where he turns Data off and things like that. Like I think it's a powerful episode, and you get to watch Maddox sort of come around and it ends, and it's not even like a definitive answer at the end where it's like, who's to say who's alive? Like, do you know? Do you know? Do you? And like there's that big scene at the end, and it's like everyone has to stop and realize, like, I don't actually know. Which means if you don't know, you probably shouldn't be killing them. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's just a very, very well done episode. And they and I don't know if you saw this when it came out in theaters, but back when they did the remastering. You know, they got access to Melinda Snodgrass had a VHS of the original cut that was like 15 minutes too long, and she provided that to them, and they were able to locate all those scenes and put them back in. So we went and saw it in the theater. It was like 15 minutes longer. Ooh. And 15 more minutes of Measure of a Man is fantastic. You know what I mean? I think it's on the Blu-ray as well. But Measure of a Man is it's a wonderful episode, one of my favorites.
We talked a minute ago about iconic Picard lines. You just mentioned another one. There's like so many iconic Picard lines from this episode. Right. One of my favorites is Starfleet is about seeking out new life. Well, there it sits waiting. I love that moment. And then the last one is when all the evidence has been presented, and he kind of walks up to Philippa and he's like, "You said you wanted a chance to make law. Make it a good one." I love that. Yeah. But you also made another point that I was planning to make, and that was that this was the moment that Next Gen showed you it was a good show. It had been a good show from the beginning. It's hard, you go back now and you look at the first season and the first season and a half, and you're like, look how quaint. And, at the time, though, that's all we had, and we loved it. It was a good show. This is when it became a great show. This is when it showed you what it had the potential to be. This was when it laid down its cards and was like, you want Star Trek, but we're going to give you good damn Star Trek.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Melinda Snodgrass, who wrote this, is a big fan of the original series. And so it has a lot of DNA in common with Court Marshall.
Yes, it does.
With a real Shaw and things like that. She sort of wove that in. But it's obvious from watching that the person watching it is writing a new story, but is very familiar with where Star Trek came from. And I think it does that very well. and it's not only just doing a great dramatic story, but it's about Data, so it's sort of rooted in like with TNG's own creations, right? It's not leaning back on the lore and the canon. It's like, here's this new thing that we've come up with for Star Trek, and we're going to examine that and draw our dramatic potential out of that.
Yeah. Two things. One, Philippa Lavoie is with the Judge Advocate General, the law department of Starfleet. And I've said 800 times on this show that I want to see a Star Trek series centered on the JAG office. I think that would be amazing. Two, I don't remember if I put this in our book, Earth Station Trek Guide to Star Trek. I think I originally had, I don't remember if I ended up in the book or not. I had planned to put that in the book, but and Amanda McBroom, who plays Philippa Lavoie, was the lady who wrote the song The Rose that Bette Midler turned into a massive worldwide hit.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a whole fascinating story behind that song. It is so interesting.
All right, I'm going to grab some comments real quick.
Yep.
Matt Sweatman said, only number 3?
I'm sorry, that's partially my fault. It wasn't on my list at all.
Fired. Elaine Sweatman says, this would be my number 1 pick. Bill says, I've not seen any of Strange New Worlds yet. I have seen Measure of a Man, and I love it.
Yeah, dog.
And Matt says, the way Philippa Lavoie is taken aback when she found out Data and Tasha had been intimate.
Yes. ...
I
love that. Oh my God. And I also love it when that point comes up, the way that Data sort of reveals it, like it's a delicate secret.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That can't be too surprising to future people.
I know, right?
People do it with robots.
I mean, come on. What do you think you use the holodeck for? You're going to use an android for that.
That's why robots were invented.
Yeah.
Yes, you know it.
Yes,
that's why we
100%.
have the internet. I mean, just extrapolate that into the future.
Right.
Okay, so that was our number 3. That doesn't mean it's not as good as the rest of them, because it is Measure of a Man from Next Gen. And before y'all complain too much, let's find out what our top 2 are, because they may be justified in the eyes of the audience and in the eyes of the court.
Right.
Number 2, Drumhead from Next Generation. Dude, this episode.
Yeah. I had this down as my number 1 pick.
Yes, you did. It was my number 2 or 3. I think 2. I think.
Okay. Well, you want to go first?
No, you go right ahead.
No, I love that it starts off as sort of a reasonable inquiry, right? There's been some sabotage on the ship.
Yeah.
People have secrets. We need to investigate this, and it just snowballs. You know what I mean? Into people's paranoia and suspicions and manias. And I love that it gets out of control. I mean, and Worf sort of along with it along the way until they're turning on Picard, and then you know what I mean.
Right.
And when they order Worf to like put Picard in the brig, and it's like, oh, this really has gotten out of control. You know what I mean? Because when you're just talking about this one guy he said he was a quarter Vulcan, but it turns out he's a quarter Romulan, and it's like, yeah, you know, he's a quarter Romulan. He might be a spy. But that when it gets up to Picard's is now a suspect, and it's like, whoa. This has like even Worf, like this has gotten out of control.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it parallels human nature so well, and things that we see happen in real life, and they're easy for even reasonable people to sort of fall in line with, you know, because it's easy to go from a reasonable suspicion that should be investigated to outright paranoia and witch hunts. And I mean, that's how that process goes.
Right.
So I think it's an important episode as well, and something that is very societally relevant even now 30 years later.
Right. The moment that's depicted on screen right now where Picard is on the stand and I don't know, there's that moment where it's a really quiet moment, and the result of it is that he sort of puts a stop to this whole thing. Right. Like, we're done. And the whole thing about people's prejudice is what's interesting to me, because if you go back to matter of perspective, everybody sees what's going on in a different way based on their own POV, based on their own, like you can't help but bring your own viewpoint, your own perspective, your own bias to any setting. And that's why you have multiple witnesses to see things from different angles.
Right.
And, that the character that Gene Simmons played,
Nora Sadie.
Sadie, thank you. That was somebody that Picard admired, looked up to, and then by the end of the episode, that was no longer the case. Because and that whole scene, they're at dinner and she's recounting stories of the way that her father had presented the law to the family, and he would set a problem at the dinner table and we would debate from all angles. A fascinating character.
Yeah, totally.
It could only have been improved if it had been played by the other Gene Simmons from Kiss.
There you go.
Right. Or if she had just worn the makeup, one or the other. But man, a killer episode.
Yeah. Veronica?
I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah,
It wasn't on my list.
Okay.
But one that I think was on Veronica's list is our top.
It was my number one.
Number 2 was Drumhead from Next Generation. Our number 1. Okay. I know it's not Measure of a Man, but it's a good one. Tribunal from DS9.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay. So the reason I picked this one as my number one is because I found it really fascinating to actually see other alien cultures and their sense of this is how justice works. And I really liked how Odo was able to find a way to make their sense of justice fit what was needed for the actual justice as the Federation and we perceive it. So that was why it was my number one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We always see these courtroom scenes from Earth's perspective, the Federation perspective. There's only a couple of examples of it not being that, and the DS9 has done 2 of them. The first one was, is it this one, this slide? Yes. Rules of Engagement was one that really deals in Klingon law, which is fascinating in itself. But then you get to Tribunal, where this one is actually set on Cardassia, because the other one, the Klingon lawyer guy comes to the station and he basically deals with the situation on our turf.
Right.
This is O'Brien, who is taken hostage. Basically, he's kidnapped. He's taken to Cardassia. He's put on trial for crimes that he supposedly committed. And it's an interesting perspective on alien legal system, on the way that different cultures would see the law in a different way, and the different ways that law serves their society. And it's a fascinating episode.
Yeah, well, it's 1984, right? Like
It is.
It's everyone's in service of the state,
Right.
and so your role as the accused is to be found guilty, so that the people can see that justice has been served and that the state is in control. Right? That's but that's not very comforting when you're the accused, right? Like, we were already planning your execution. I haven't even gone to trial yet,
Right.
And his own attorney, who I thought was very well played, sort of this beleaguered old man who wants nothing to do with his nonsense, and really is just more afraid of getting in trouble with the court himself. You know what I mean? He's like, just have mercy on me, but it's scary. It's a genuinely scary episode. And I mean, I don't think you're watching it and you really believe that O'Brien is going to be executed. But I think that it's one of those episodes where like you really
question it.
Yeah. And I think the fact that it is O'Brien and that he was abducted when he was on a trip with Keiko, and so you get her perspective as well.
Right.
I mean, it's terrifying. It's like if you're traveling internationally and you get taken by another country whose justice system works in a different way, and there's nothing that our justice system can do about it. That's a genuinely terrifying thing to happen to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And even though certainly our justice system here isn't perfect, there's certainly plenty of flaws with it. I think that maybe we've just been conditioned to sort of believe that there's good, you can appeal and there's right can overcome, right?
And when you don't have the platform of appeal,
right?
Because you don't have that in this Cardassian court,
right? Yeah, and I love that Odo jumps right on it because he understands Cardassian law. He used to work for the Cardassians, so he grabs Keiko and we're going. And like Veronica said, he really does sort of find the resolution to it. But No, I just think it's a wonderful twist on the courtroom episodes of just taking it, because even with the one with the Klingon lawyer, it was still on DS9.
Right.
You still had the Vulcan lady who was the judge. Like there's that sense of it's still in our sphere of influence.
Exactly.
And when you even the alien one we had before, the matter of perspective, it's a court that seems to function very much like our own. You know what I mean? But here we're sort of taken out of that familiarity and put in this sort of funhouse mirror of a court system. And no, I just think it's extremely effective, and it really does. I mean, go to show like the value of innocent until proven guilty, right? Like that,
right?
The fact that you have a right to go to court in the first place, right? To have a jury of your peers. I think that's something to value, especially now
especially right now.
Yeah, because we're having worldwide this sort of rise of right-wing fascism that don't care for this sort of thing,
until it's them,
right?
We won't go into that.
Right, that is a whole different podcast.
Indeed.
But one of my favorite moments of this is when Odo, I don't remember the title that he takes on. It's like a Chadich in Klingon, but it's the guy who basically defends the undefendable.
Right.
And he steps in and says, well, I will be your representative. And I think it was Gul Macet who was like, well, you can't be, because it has to be a Cardassian. It has to be somebody appointed in the Cardassian courts to blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I think you will find that when I served on this station under Gul Dukat, yes, indeed, he made me that position to defend or to represent Bajoran prisoners who were put on trial. So yes, indeed, I am that position. And I was like, get it, Odo.
Odo's like, look me up.
Right. Right. And this was season 2. And kind of, I don't think it was midway. I think it was kind of early in season 2. I don't remember, but this was, I think, an important episode for Odo. And Odo was established at the very beginning of the series that he is not in league with Cardassia. He is not in league with Starfleet. His duty is to the law. His duty is to justice.
Right.
And that makes him sort of like a pure being in that sense. Like he doesn't have the allegiance that other people think he has. His allegiance is to his own sense of what is right and wrong. And that makes him, I don't know, just one of the greatest Star Trek characters ever. And this was a great use of him in this episode.
Totally.
It's interesting that his sense of justice is closer to Starfleet's sense of justice.
Of course,
because where he was raised, I mean, like, granted, he was claimed by the Bajorans, but it was 100% during the occupation time,
right?
And so even if he had learned Bajoran law, it was still very different from Federation law and Cardassian law. Those were like the only two moral compasses or codes of law that he had. So it's really interesting that, I mean, obviously the reason was because they were writing it that way, but there was no logical sense of his background and why he would have had this sense of justice this way.
Well, it could just be that he saw what was happening under the Cardassians, and whether he's raised them or not, he didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that if we do a second volume of our book, The Earth Station Trek Guide to Star Trek, maybe we'll have a whole chapter that examines the law as it's presented in Star Trek.
Sure.
Maybe I'll take that on. I'm going to write that chapter.
That's a good idea.
Unless somebody else wants to write it.
I'm going to grab some comments real quick.
Yes.
We had some shocked people with our reveal of the top one.
Really?
Well, Elaine said, well, my list would have been missing all DS9 and Voyager episodes because I haven't seen them yet.
I think scroll up because I think there was more.
Bill said, oh, Gene Simmons. Yes, Alan, I was wondering. Gene Simmons?
Right.
Cat face. Matt Swipman said, oh, crap. Neither of my options were in it.
Apparently, he had 3 number 1 options.
Wayne
You'll have
said,
to let us know what that is.
Star Trek Voyager, Ex Post Facto, and the Star Witness. I love that twist. At least it was an honorable mention. Leave it to Tuvok. Elaine said, one that would have been on my list would have been Judgment from Enterprise.
Yeah.
Bill said, I wonder if there were any Gene Simmons jokes around that set.
Probably not.
You would wonder.
Probably not when she's there. Matt Swetman said, no Menagerie, no Sins of the Father. And I know, and I debated putting Menagerie on my list, but ultimately the great part of the menagerie story is happening on Talos 4.
Yeah.
For me, and not necessarily in the courtroom. I think
Yes.
the courtroom really exists as a framing story for the events of the story of Talos 4. And they sort of cop out at the end when it wasn't even a trial in the first place.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert. Elaine says, cough, cough, ice, cough, cough, when we're
Yeah.
talking
Oh,
about
my.
the justice system. And I think that's an excellent point, because right here in our own country,
Yeah.
we're dealing with these sort of things, right? Where people are more than happy, whether someone's guilty or not, because it makes the people feel better about the state to get these people off the streets, right?
That's almost what the Cardassians did
Yeah.
with
Yes.
they basically pulled over a car and was like, "Oh, you're out."
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
It's the sort of thing that is happening today, very much like this. And
Mhm.
I framed it as being other countries, but I mean, you're right, Elaine. It's happening right here in the U.S., and it's something that we need to defend against. And I
Mhm.
think episodes like this really, really hammer that home.
Mhm.
I want to say to Matt, Menagerie I considered it from my list also,
Mhm.
and it didn't quite make the cut. And I was really close to using Sins of the Father also, because I love that episode. But I don't know. I felt like even though that is a strong episode, and that is a really, really, to me, a pivotal moment for next gen. I still felt like the ones that I picked. Okay, I might be wrong about that, because Matter of Perspective might not be quite as strong as Sins of the Father. I'll just say, but I picked Matter of Perspective for a specific reason.
Mhm.
And Sins of the Father to me played along the same lines as a lot of the other ones that I felt like were going to get chosen. So I went with Matter of Perspective because of it telling a story a different way than all the other ones did.
Right.
So
Totally.
I have one honorable mention that I want to throw out because I know we're over time already. But Dax, and I really struggled not including that one. But there were so many other DS9 ones I already had, and I felt they were stronger than this than Dax, because it was like one of the early season 1 episodes.
Very early.
So it was still a little weak, and it still felt kind of TNG-ish, even though it was specifically for Dax. But
yeah,
I
considered that one also.
Yeah, I tried to lean into episodes that were great episodes, but that really leaned into the courtroom format and were great episodes because of it and through that format. Whereas something like Menagerie, I love. Sins of the Father, I love.
Yeah.
I don't think of them first and foremost as being courtroom episodes, and maybe that's me. But I think that in a lot of cases, the good parts of those stories aren't necessarily the courtroom aspects. Whereas I think these, the courtroom is really a part of the story and used very well as a storytelling device.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Same for me. Yeah.
But your mileage may vary. Feel free to share with all your friends and complain. Right.
Yeah, right.
So what are we doing next Thursday?
Well, I threw an idea out there and no one confirmed it. So I'm just going to throw it out there again in front of an audience.
Okay, do it.
Because I suggested previously watching some classic sci-fis, and I suggested watching The Day the Earth Stood Still before next week's episode and talking about The Day the Earth Stood Still next week.
I responded to that.
You did not. I just checked.
I did in my head.
So my suggestion in front of everybody is that we watch The Day the Earth Stood Still between now and next Thursday and talk about The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay. I love that.
Okay.
And we can find all the Star Trek parallels in it.
And it's
if there are any.
It actually has been played on Star Trek, so it's a shoe-in.
Hey, there you go.
It was in the first episode of Strange New Worlds.
That's right. All right. So next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live once again. Hopefully with Keith this time.
The Day Earth Station Trek Stood Still.
There you go. Elaine says, I approve that topic.
Thank you for your support, Elaine. All right. Well, Alan, where can people find more of you?
CosmicCreative.com, KOZMIC creative.com. And Veronica is laughing at me for some reason.
No, I was laughing at Chuck. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Because if you go to CosmicCreative.com, you will find information all about the Earth Station Trek Guide to Star Trek. I know I haven't mentioned this in a while, and by a while I mean this episode. So you should all go and check this book out, because I honestly think it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got my 2 new Doctor Who books, Time Flight, and other stuff that's in the works. So check it out.
Awesome. And yeah, Veronica was laughing because oftentimes I'm monkeying around when it's time for her to say something.
Yeah.
And she's forgotten. I'll signal her under the table like this. And then I started to do that. And I was like, oh, that's me.
That's funny.
We're on a different show now.
That's right.
But you can find more of us at feltnerdy.com
Mhm.
and Felt Nerdy across social media for our all ages and nerd friendly puppetry, or Felt Nerdy and Dirty for our very not all ages puppetry, adult only.
Yes.
And if you happen to be at our local kink convention, Frolicon, in 2 weeks, we'll be hosting the Puppet Slam, the Nerdy and Dirty Puppet Slam will be happening. We've got some great Indian underground puppeteers who are coming out to do some weird puppet shows. So come
Nice.
to Frolicon and watch that. What are you doing?
One week and a couple days. It's like not this weekend, but next
Yeah,
weekend.
not this weekend, but next weekend.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
And where else can we find us, Veronica?
Monkeying Around, podcast about the monkeys.
That's right. And we go live every Wednesday now talking about the monkeys. And our audience has been growing and growing. We're getting a lot of,
We had 18 people last night.
18 live viewers, but
Well,
also
yes.
like the comments were getting a bit much to be able to keep
Yeah.
up with. We had
Right.
a great reactions to our Pool It episode last night. So
Yeah.
if you didn't catch it, go watch Pool It. But
Comment on the YouTube video.
yep, this coming week we'll be talking about the 90s reunion album, Just Us.
Excellent.
All right.
Excellent.
And Veronica, do you have a closing for us this week?
All right. Thanks for Earth Station trekking.
Okay.
Okay.
Had the same ring to it.
All right. Y'all have a good week. We'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Bye.